This is the 22nd season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, AFTCO, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. And today we have a very exciting edition of BTL. We did this basically 2 years ago to the day, middle of August 2024. We had a panel on that consisted of industry insiders and competitive tournament anglers, and we put together the definitive, irrefutable top 10 list of live scope anglers currently competing at high-level tournaments in the world today. And I thought it was time to bring it back. That show got a lot of good feedback and discussion. And I'll say this before we get into this. We do over 200 shows a year here on BTL Bass Talk Live. And just because we're doing the top 10 live scope forward-facing sonar, so it includes all of them, it's just scope is kind of like the Cinco terminology now. It includes Lowrance, Garmin, Humminbird, all three of them. Does not mean that next month we might not come back with the top 10 list of, I think the terminology we're using is draggers competing in top-level tournament fishing. And while the PFL is not included in this list due to their lack of forward-facing sonar in the tournaments, next month's list might include some different guests and include that. But without further ado, let's get into the criteria for today's ranking show, and then we'll bring in the guests and get underway. This is what we're working with. We are putting together a list of the top 10 forward-facing sonar anglers that are currently competing on either the Bassmaster Elite Series, the MLF Bass Pro Tour, the MLF Pro Circuit, or the Bassmaster Opens. They are scored on 5 criteria. This is relating to their use of forward-facing sonar: innovation, consistency, versatility, efficiency, and resume, for a maximum score of 50 points. Now, we're using these as guidelines. Some, like the first guest that I'm going to bring in, took this quite literally and created multiple spreadsheets over the last week to come up with his top 10 list. Others have to compete against the anglers and has been in the boat with them, has fished against them, has seen what they can do. That might make up more of his list. And one of our other guests is on the road, follows these guys. You see him on TV, on Bassmaster every single week, and has a good vibe with it. So I wanted to get an industry insider from the MLF side, an industry insider from the Bassmaster side, and an angler who's been on the water. And then I do a little bit of fishing, and I cover both tours. So I think we've got it pretty much covered. So without further ado, he's a regular to the show, Jody White. Thank you for jumping on this show. I know you're excited. You're the senior editor and writer for Major League Fishing, a lot of Toyota series, a lot of pro circuit events, and then you're also just a bass head, so you follow the BPT. And a lot of the guys that are on the BPT, if you go back to the show 2 years ago, are currently kicking everybody's butt on the BPT that you talked about that were fishing Toyotas and Invitationals 2 years ago.
Thanks for having me, Matt. I'm looking forward to it.
Fair introduction?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely looking at the lower levels is a really good way to find the next great scoper, so to speak. It's a very good indicator.
You're on the water, you see a lot of stuff that goes on, and you're in the boat with a lot of these guys. It's very interesting to see some of the lists last year. There's guys who have kind of, you thought were on the come up, that have dropped off, and other guys that you were like, oh, there might be some potential here, that have far exceeded their expectations.
Yeah, I remember last time we had like a whole bunch of Elite Series rookies that we were like, man, I don't know if we should put these guys on the list or not. They haven't been around very long. Like, we're not sure what to do. And like, I'm pretty sure a lot of them are on this list now. So it's definitely an ever-changing thing. And,
All right, go ahead.
Look at it.
Our next guest is the executive editor for digital for Bass. He also travels the country, does the pregame or the midday show. He's on the water. He watches these guys fish a lot, but just like you do for MLF, he watches it on Bass on the Elite Series side. And that is Kyle Jesse. Are you at the Bass headquarters? If that's your house, I would be very impressed at your dedication to the craft, Kyle Jesse.
No, Matt, this is the office. And I will put this out there to start with. When I walked into the office this morning, I guess they had the AC turned off over the weekend. So if I just like pass out and roll over out of this chair, just call 911 because I don't think anybody's coming to get me in here. But yeah, I'm inside the office. This is where we shoot the Inside Bassmaster podcast. And yeah, pretty cool backdrop.
And you're on location for a lot of these things you've watched over the last number of years. A lot of these guys, the phenoms that have come in, how they get it done behind the scenes on the water, not just what you see on live. You jumped in the boat with them, you interview them, you talk about them on live. So that's kind of been your life, is really getting to know the guys on the Bassmaster Elite Series side, and also a fan of the sport as well.
Yeah, Matt, I mean, honestly, at the core of it, that's what I am. I'm a fan of the sport. I've told Jody this story. I don't think he remembers this, but Jody White is one of the big reasons I do this job, because I talked to him at a Forrest Wood Cup when I was probably just right out of high school or maybe still in college, and asked him how he got into this, what kind of job you're looking for. And yeah, just a huge fan of the sport, fan of Jody, obviously our next guest. And yeah, like you said, I obviously cover the sport extremely closely. It's a huge part of my job, especially on the Elite Series, doing the live cast show. I watch pretty much every second of live. So I think the cool thing about this list is it's somewhat subjective. You know, like there's numbers to back up a lot of this stuff, but also like there's things that, you know, Jody, myself, our next guest might see that, you know, it's hard to put intangibles to, but that's what's fun about this. Obviously, great list of guys. And the more I looked over this list, I will say the harder it became, because there's guys not on my list that should be, and I know I'm going to get grilled for it. So I just want to go ahead and put that out there. But yeah, looking forward to it. Should be fun.
That's what it's all about. Our next guest would like to be introduced as a saltwater angler and grouper expert, but he's pretty much the youngest to like win everything. And then he's won it multiple times. And if there's a level that he's at, he's won it. He's also on the bait side, developing some of the most popular forward-facing sonar baits, and currently competing on the Bass Pro Tour. He's been there, he's done that. And I thought, with having Alton Jr. on 2 years ago, you got to have a guy who's in the trenches. You got to have a guy who knows the game from the inside out, who travels with these guys, who competes with these guys, who gets in the boat, who develops baits with them. And there was really one guy that stuck out. And I know incredibly busy, both professionally and personally. Cannot thank Jacob Wheeler enough for jumping on this show. And are you getting a little nervous on what you're getting into? Or is this something that you're excited to kind of dive into, Jacob?
I love talking about bass fishing. Obviously, I'm a fan of the sport first, so I obviously keep an eye on everything from MPFLs, the Bassmaster Elite stuff, to Bass Opens, to pro circuits, to Toyota events. I keep an eye on it all. So it's something that if I wasn't a professional bass angler, I would probably just be I would still be doing the same things. I just have the passion for that. So yeah, I'm excited about it. It's a cool way to sort of come up with a list of guys. There's a lot of talent out there. That is really hard. Once you put pen to paper, you're like, yeah, like if you give me a top 20, I feel like I could do that, but then I'd feel like I'd leave somebody out, you know? So I have like so many honorable mentions down there. I'm like, oh my, I put these in. I don't know. So I guess it's just, yeah, there's a lot to it.
All right. I want to remind everybody of this is the general criteria. This is just to give us some guidelines for this. Once we actually kind of get the top 10 list, we're going to go through, and I'm going to keep a list. We're going to go 10 to 1. We're going to go around the clock. You're going to say, I got number 10. You're going to give your reasons why. Some of us, we'll just flash this up really quick. Jody White actually has a 40 bullet point spreadsheet. 40, what are those called? 40 cell row column spreadsheet of all of his anglers. which is actually impressive because we've got statistics, you got feeling, we've got the on the water. Like, again, these are the main criteria: innovation, consistency, versatility, efficiency, and resume. Jacob, you're pretty well versed in all of those. In your opinion, is that a fair grading scale to come up with the top 10 forward-facing sonar anglers currently going in 2026?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's like a fair. It's hard for me because I look at it a little differently, and I'm like, I agree. Innovation is obviously something that's very unique, and that's why you have to have a few people on there. Versatility, consistency, resume is tough because I feel like so many of the best, most efficient like angler. I resume is a portion of it, but I don't put it as high as I've put just like sheer talent with utilizing the technology. Like there's a lot to it. So like I feel like I don't judge it like that, like 10 points for each category. I give less. I might give 15 points or 10, 10, 10. And then these two there's 5 points up for grabs. So anyway, I looked at it. You sent it to me last night. I'm like, I have a list. I think it's fair enough.
I'm going to organize this in the order by which we're going. Jacob Wheeler would be the only one who doesn't put high importance on resume. That being said, let's kick it off with you. We'll go around the horn. We'll go Jacob, Jody, Kyle, and then me. We'll get our 10 picks. I'll keep a list off this, and then we can argue afterwards. We can go through. We'll get it. All 4 of us will then agree on these are the top 10. So there will be a top 5, a top 3. There will be a number 1, maybe not a consensus number 1, maybe a consensus number 1. I'll be very interested because none of us have looked at each other's work or talked about it. Like I said, gentlemen, greatly appreciate you doing it. Without further ado, BTL top 10 forward-facing sonar anglers going today at the top level of tournament fishermen. Who you got at number 10, Jacob Wheeler? And if you want to either say the name or give a little bit of your reasons why, feel free to afterwards then.
All right, so for me, I put this one. So like when I look at like forward-facing sonar anglers, I look at anglers that are efficient with it. I also look at nuances. This is how I sort of look at it. This angler is really hit the scenes the last couple of years. Going to be on the BPT first year. Ryan Lockney. And the reason behind that is because he understands multiple nuances. Of course, like the first. So I put him at 10. I put him at 10 because I feel like he's got a lot of ceiling potential, and he's proven through the pro circuit and other places where he was locally. I think he's in Virginia. Is that right? West Virginia, terrorizing. Yeah. So terrorizing some of the local trails over there. Now he gets to go ahead and terrorize us on the BPT. So that's I just feel like he understands the difference between like floating fish, bottom fish. He's efficient with it. That's why I put him at number 10, and he's consistently caught him.
Jody, number 10 for you.
I have 4 guys tied for number 10.
This was your hardest pick, I would point out. Jody has been slaving over who his number 10 pick is. Did you sleep last night, or did you legitimately lose sleep over this number 10 pick?
I slept great.
Okay.
I am gonna put Dustin Connell at number 10. I think he is super good at all of this. He was super early to all of this. And even though like there are times where he does great in 3 hours, there are also times where like, you know, Jacob or Drew or someone younger does a lot better in 3 hours. But I'm going with Connell for 10.
Kyle Jesse, number 10 on your list of the top live scoper / forward facing sonar anglers competing.
Yeah,
today.
much like Jody, it was very, very difficult to pick number 10 because you go down the honorable mention, and I think I have like 50 names listed for honorable mention, and you could easily justify any of those guys. A guy I did not originally have on my list, but then I figured I don't know how you could justify not based on what he's done lately, is Chris Johnston. Obviously extremely versatile. He's obviously got a non-forward facing win this year. But look, the way the Elite Series has been the last 2 years, the last 3 years, really, you're not winning AOY back-to-back years if you're not good with live scope. I know he gets pinned as just a very versatile overall guy, but it's hard for me to not have him on the list. That did mean that some of the guys that I think probably should be on the list aren't on my list because he's on there. But yeah, I think it's hard to say you win back-to-back AOYs on the Elite Series and not be good at forward-facing sonar based on the guys that are right behind him in the standings every year.
Chris Johnston for Kyle for number 10. I'm going to go with the guy who has made a lot of waves in 2026. Some would say responsible for really popularizing the urchin craze. And I think if you take a look at what Mr. South, what Paik South has done this year, and then go back and look at his resume in the Opens. He has top 10s on TVA fisheries. He has top 10s up north. He has top 10s in Alabama, and then obviously back-to-back Bassmaster Open wins with the urchin style, with the Koike bait at Sam Rayburn, the 96-15 to set the record of it, to watch how he did that, how efficient he was with it. And then what's more impressive to me then is he goes to Eufaula in Alabama, where everybody is doing this, trying to figure out his pattern and how he is doing it, and he smokes them all while they're all trying to figure out his game with another 84-1. He's also rookie on the Elite Series. He's inside the Classic cut in his rookie year. So my number 10 is Paik South. All right, let's go to number 9. We'll go back around the horn to Mr. Jacob Wheeler.
So one of the nuances with forward-facing sonar is being a really good herring fisherman, pressured fish in the world. With forward-facing sonar are on Lanier, they are on Hartwell, Lake Murray, and one person that consistently goes to the top of the list in that scenario is Paul Marks. He's he's an angler that I look at as obviously well-versed in multiple different ways to catch them. His father was a hammer. I just look at it that great angler, absolutely crushes it, and catches the hardest fish by far to fish for with forward-facing sonar, a herring bass. Period. End of story. You go to Hartwell, tell me they're the most fickle fish out of any of them. So Paul Marks is my number 9.
Jody White.
I'm also going to take Paul Marks. I think that, to Jacob's point, like the herring guys are also, I think, very ahead of the curve on a lot of stuff. I think that a lot of Lanier bass saw a lot of Koikes more often than other bass did, and I think that's probably the case with whatever the next thing is going to be. So I think that, those guys are pretty dialed on everything. And yeah, like making hard fish bite is a really, really key scope skill. And it's one that the herring guys are really well trained at. And some other guys we'll get to later as well.
Interesting. Our first match at number 9, both Jacob Wheeler and Jody White pick Paul Marks, a little Carolina expertise. Kyle, Jesse, your number 9 pick.
Yeah, I wanted to just make one pick and call it the Surge Squad, because all those guys between Emil Wagner, Paul Marks, all those guys should be on the list. They're not on my list because it was very hard for me to narrow it down to just one of them. I think all of them are incredibly good. So if one's off, they're all off. See you
Kyle,
later.
let me just say, that's what lists are for. It is to leave people off to generate discussion and to pick people to generate discussion. So feelings are out the window here. This is cold-blooded Kyle Jesse that we have here. Wheeler, I promise you, has no problem leaving people off the list or picking people. So
Kyle,
it's easy for you
take
to
emotions out of the pick, Kyle.
2 days from now, I'm going to have to face these guys. So I'm not trying to piss
there's
anybody
not
off.
A single member of the
They're
Surge
nice
squad
guys,
that could
and
kick your
you can
butt.
probably
Those guys
fight
are
them.
120 pounds soaking
Kyle.
wet.
The problem, Paul Marks won head-to-head every time in those scenarios. That's why he's number 1. If Emil won those two turns,
don't be bullied by Jacob Wheeler, Kyle. No, we're doing after. We're going back around after. Kyle, your gut heart pick. Take things out. It's just you and God. Who's your number 9 pick?
Number 9. I watched the episode 2 years ago, and you wouldn't let us choose 2 brothers at a time. I put Dylan and Carter Nutt, but I guess just recency bias based on the classic, I'll say Dylan. But obviously what Carter did qualifying for the BPT, it's hard to go against him. As a bass guy, I'll say Dylan, but I think, again, you classify those guys almost as the exact same. But I'll go Dylan Nutt.
Okay.
Good pick.
Number nine for me, he should be higher, but I think he's one of those guys who you look at the end of the game and he's always got a double-double bordering on a triple-double, but he doesn't really stand out at the game. I know, big basketball guy, Jacob Wheeler, got some friends there. And you room with them, but Dustin Connell, you look at the REDCREST that he has, you look at the consistency that he has across all platforms. I think that his forward-facing sonar prowess sometimes is underrated because, like some other people on this list, he can also dominate without it. But across the board, when there is a scope fish, forward-facing fish, particularly in non-traditional formats, he always seems to come through. Plus, unequivocated resume. Dustin Connell is my number 9. Do you agree with that? You room with him, Jacob, as far as he's one of those guys that he's not a flashy scoper.
Dustin is an efficient scoper. He's very efficient, and he's very he's probably the one. He really works at it too. He pays a lot of time. He pays attention to a lot of little detail, nuances within his. Like I'm partial to Dustin because I know how much I don't put that much time into it. Dustin. Oh,
Surge Squad just cut the power at Bass. Okay, so fair pick on that. All right, back around the horn. It is your pick, Jacob. You are on number 8. You're Ryan Locknight. Locknight, is that how you say that? Everyone says it a little bit different.
It's Lockneat, I think.
Lockneat,
right?
Okay, Lockneat at 10. Paul Marks at 9. Number 8, Jacob Wheeler.
Number 8 for me is one that I sort of went back and forth on this. And so like I'm big on the innovation side too, that I look at it, I put a very high value in that. And the most recent, so this is like, we'll get more into it later. There's a couple of people that I feel like have done this, but Koya Fujita is my number 8. And because overall, I felt like and I might be wrong, and you guys can tell me I'm wrong, but obviously Lake Fork last year was really the Koiki coming out. Heavy line, showing people how to work it correctly, all these things. Now there was a couple of people that were on it. A lot of people say they were on it. I'm going to call BS on that, but just to be completely transparent, but that was where a lot of guys went and started jumping. Oh my goodness, I got to do, even knowing if you knew Forward at all, you knew he was targeting fish. He wouldn't show the screen for the guys at Bass. On that stuff, he was targeting isolated pieces of timber, popping it out there, make him react. He was on the front end of that game, and I felt like, and shaking a minute there, really good with. I felt like he sort of had one like Taku. It felt like Koya, and so I'm giving the nod to Koya because I felt like the innovation and bringing a new tech.
Fair, very fair. All right, Koya Fujita in at number 8 for Jacob Wheeler. Jody White, you have Dustin Connell at 10. Paul Marks at 9. Number 8 for you, Mr. White.
This is where I have Patrick Walters. He was really early. He has a really, really good resume. He also can do a lot of other things, which is an issue for being top tier on a scope list. But he's a hard guy to leave off. And, we've innovated a lot recently. He innovated a lot early. So this is where I've got Walters.
Kyle Jesse.
My number
Chris
8.
Johnston at 10. Dylan Nutt at 9. Number 8.
Number 8, Easton Fothergill. I think you could definitely justify putting him higher. But what he's done with forward-facing sonar, kind of the same way innovation-wise that you mentioned with Koya Fujita. I kind of feel the same way with him. I've obviously spent a lot of time covering him through college, through the Opens, obviously the Elite Series now. it's also one of those things. Like I'll mention this. Obviously, comparing especially Bass Pro Tour to Elite Series. Now, the two formats, you're judging it based on different things, right? Obviously, limited time per day in the Bass Pro Tour, as where limited tournaments in the Elite Series. So I'm just looking at it strictly from a tournament standpoint where you can use it. He averages a 31st place finish. Obviously some of his wins through the Opens, utilizing it on Lake Eufaula in Oklahoma, and then obviously Leech Lake, and then what he did in the Classic. I feel like you have to have Easton Fothergill on the list.
Yep. That's funny because one of these guys that two of you mentioned on this gets left off of my list, and it came down to me between Patrick Walters and Easton Fothergill in 8, and I went with Easton Fothergill, and primarily that was the Classic win, and then also the Open and what he did on Lake Eufaula. What impresses me is when guys are everyone knows what they need to be doing, and they're doing it in an area of the lake. It's not like, you go off and you find something that you have to yourself magical, but when you're fishing community stuff and just out fishing everybody by a wide margin, I fished that Open and literally fished the point where he caught that 9.5 pounder and was like, oh my gosh. But then you watch what he did in the Classic where he was fishing around guys, making small adjustments on that. He's very good at pulling individual fish. He's very good at target fish, the fish on the timber, like we saw in the Bassmaster Classic. And the reason he's not a little bit higher on mine is sometimes he does tend to struggle a little bit with consistency on it. Like there are certain guys who, when they're supposed to hit a home run with it, they hit a home run every single time. And I think you're going to see them in our top 3-4 of the standings here. But Easton Fothergill cannot not be on this list. So he is also my number 8 pick. All right. We have 3 rounds down, 7 to go with Jacob Wheeler, Jody White from MLF, Kyle Jesse from the Bass headquarters. We're counting down the top 10 forward-facing Sonar anglers at high-level tournament competition in 2020. This is an irrefutable top 10. Like, this is the top 10. Now we're getting into it. Number 7, Jacob Wheeler.
Sort of what Kyle sort of talked about. I'm going to pick Dylan Nutt over Carter. They're both very good. I feel like these anglers have so much foundational fishing history on the Tennessee River. There's a lot to that, right? And so when I look at them, they both have a lot of, they're very tight with banks as well. Very talented anglers. They understand all that, what's going on. They understand nuances. And like when I look at like a forward-facing Sonar angler, I'm like, all right, how good is he catching smallmouth? How good is he catching bottom fish, spawn fish, floaters, cover fish, fry garters, herring fish? That's sort of my overall overarching looking of like what's going on. So like I just feel like obviously Dylan winning the Classic, I'm giving him the nod, sort of like Kyle said. Great angler. Both of them are phenomenal. Both have a reason. I could say Carter's in the top 10 as well. I just picked one. And so that's why number 7.
Jody.
I've got Mitchell Robinson here. Mitchell he doesn't have like necessarily a super long history, but he is like pretty lights out when he gets to scope. He also like he was really good in high school and stuff like that. Not this year, but last year on the invitationals, we had day 1 was the only day you could scope. Where the full field could scope, right? Mm-hmm. And Jacob Walker was the best scoper. He would have won day 1 AOI. Mitchell Robinson was second, and that's ahead of a guy like Banks Shaw, Hayden Marbett, Brody Campbell. And Mitchell is great. And I think he deserves to be, if he's not there for others, he deserves to be in this conversation. He is extremely, extremely good.
Is that the oldest Robinson brother?
Youngest.
Unless
there's more that I don't know about.
That's the youngest Robinson brother.
Yeah, the younger Robinson.
Okay. Mitchell Robinson.
Probably best hair on this list.
He does have Scoper's hair. At number 7 for Jody, kind of the first, I would say, off the board pick, which is very, which I like. Hold on, I got to do this. Boom, we're back to normal. All right, Kyle. So far in round 7, Dylan Nutt for Jacob Wheeler at number 7, Mitchell Robinson for Jody White, number 7 for Kyle Jesse.
I'm going Patrick Walters. I know somebody just picked Patrick Walters just a minute ago. I feel like you have to have him on the list. I think that 2020 tournament at Fork, I think will be, there were certainly live scope wins, Panoptics wins before that one, but I think watching that one, I can remember sitting in the studio watching that tournament and thinking, like, what is going on? Like, this is like exploiting a lot of things that like you just assumed were never going to happen in bass fishing. So I think you give a lot of credit to that. Of course, his consistency, obviously doesn't have an AOY, but obviously has wins consistently inside the top 20 in AOY, 25th place average in forward facing sonar events this year in 26. Then obviously we just saw him recency bias, saw what he did at Lake Erie in the Open as well. It's hard to have this list without having Patrick Walters on it.
Fair point, Kyle Jesse. All right, I'm going Koya at number 7, primarily for the innovation, the leader length, the rod actions. There's very few guys in this sport where when you're in the boat with someone and you say, well, why are you doing that? And they say, I don't know. It's just because that guy does it. And I've gotten in the boat with a lot of scopers that have been at media events and they can't really have an in-depth conversation as to why, but I use that rod because Koya does. I rig my bait that way because Koya does. I have a 4-foot leader because Koya does. I use this braid because Koya does. I know about this bait because Koya. He is also prone to the strikeout, but I've also seen, because he fishes everything there is on the opens. You want to talk about a guy who has the utmost confidence in his craft. I have watched him grid out sections of lake before and literally drive to that section and fish in a very precise grid-like fashion back and forth for 8 hours and then drive in. And you also don't know what the hell he has tied on. I think all of us have something in the boat that would not be in the boat if it is not for Koya. I also like the fact that he's won in the South on largemouth in Louisiana, and he's also won up north on smallmouth on Champlain. Like I said, consistency, probably his only thing that keeps him from being a little bit higher, but number 7 for me is Koya. Do you have anything in your boat because of Koya, Jacob Wheeler?
Probably just Koya.
Cross City.
Probably just Koya.
Oh,
like
let's not pretend that Jacob only has Crush City in the boat. Like, we're in the age of anything that looks like anything, you're gonna put it in the boat.
Yeah, some of them, yeah, for sure. But it's probably, yeah, I definitely do, for sure. And that's why he was on my list. I'm like, hey, I thought I tip my hat to those people. That it's cool.
I got something that none of you have that's going to be the absolute next banger, and we'll take a little break here after number 7. I've got it hidden. I haven't shown it yet.
I got good too, but I can't tell you anything on that one.
God, I shouldn't show this.
If it's
this could
good,
be
you don't want to show it.
This could be my ticket to the EQs.
Use it in the EQs.
Yeah, be quiet, man. Shut.
You know what, though? I make my living through the show and not on the water, so I'll share it with the folks. I picked this up 2 years ago while I was in Japan. Principality of Zeon amphibious mobile suit worms. If you look at these, I mean, that is literally a Transformer action figure that I paid $20 for that pack. It's very dense plastic. There are 3 of them in it. I mean, look at the little hands on the top. Like, if that doesn't turn into the next hottest scope bait, I don't think anything will.
I could have swore you were about to show a pack of drift fries, Jackal drift fries, just because of how many times that showed up in the top lures galleries from Koya.
No,
it's gonna break some news to you. I'm not sure he throws it too much.
You ever seen that? Any of you? Or is that a new bait?
I think you might have shown it to me when I was at your house last fall.
I'm scared
That's
to
pretty-
open them because I only have one pack, and I think they might have been a Japan collector series. All right, number 6, Jacob Wheeler.
This is where it's tough for me. See, it's tough because of this. In my mindset, I look at things a little differently because I look at how the overall value of that angler, like, okay, this is how I look at it. Okay, this is what's tough. If you turn off all your other electronics and you just give them forward, who's the best? That's where, see, a lot of the best anglers are just so good at efficiency-wise, mapping, side imaging, everything else, understanding-wise. That's where it changes. But if you just gave them forward, that changes the whole game. So I'm not going to get into that quite yet, but I'm just sort of prefacing the whole deal. I'm going to put Easton Father again. I'm going to put Easton up there. I feel like he actually could be higher. To be higher. I think Easton's so quiet. Also, to be fair, Easton, Kings of Bass, was throwing a Koike when Koya was fishing it on Lake Fort, caught him on it. So Easton's actually probably higher on my list, but I'm going to put him there just because. And I think Easton's ahead of the game. I think he's so quiet and low key that he doesn't get a lot of publicity other than winning the Classic, of course. I think he's a super talented angler, really good dude, and overall a innovator, and just always on the next big thing, but just quietly.
There you go. Jody White, number 6.
Number 6, I've got, and this is where I maybe start to look like a homer, maybe not, but this is where I have Brody Campbell. He is super good. He figures out how to catch scope fish a lot of places, a lot of ways. I don't know if he is necessarily the first to a thing, but a lot of times he figures out a really good little innovation that just he has, or he and Chad have. And he can catch them without it, but he is really at home with scope, and you're going to see him light it up in a period on the BPT a bunch next year when he's got a camera on him the whole time and you're watching Score Tracker roll.
Nice. Mitchell Robinson at number 7, Brody Campbell at number 6 for Jody White. Kyle Jesse, number 6 for you.
I know this is going to be controversial because I'm almost certain Jody and Jacob will have this guy higher than I do. But again, as a bass guy, I just have the ability to appreciate the guys I watch.
Why we've got you on.
than,
You're the bass guy.
Yeah.
Jody's the MLF guy.
I know that Banks Shaw is going to be higher on other guys' lists, but he's number 6 on my list. I had him scoring out very similar to Patrick Walters. I think, and I'm going to contradict myself here because you look at some of the guys that I have at my top, I think it's more of a sustained success. I mean, what he's done in the last few years is hard to beat. I mean, it's been pretty incredible, whether it be through the pro circuit or, obviously rookie on the Bass Pro Tour this year. But I know he'll be higher on others' lists, but I got him at 6.
Our first controversial pick of the show, coming in at number 6, Banks Shaw for Kyle Jesse. I'm going to go, well, you could go for or against this. That I already have, it's hard to, no offense, but an old school guy in Dustin Connell. I'm going to go even old schooler at number 6, maybe a little bit of a homer pick, but really big on firsts. And Patrick Walters is my 11th guy. I could easily switch him with Jason Christie. And you don't think of Jason Christie as forward facing because of how good he is. If you go back to one of the first Elite Series wins, the first, you know where I'm going with this, Jody, the first FLW tour win on this, in my opinion, was Scott Martin on Cumberland. And that was when I first noticed he started pointing. He was always casting where his trolling motor was pointing. It was the first time I'd ever seen anyone throw a jerkbait 40 feet and was like, this is witchcraft. I covered the tournament on, well, I'm serious. I covered the tournament on St. Clair that Jason Christie won, snapping a tube with Panoptics. And he was on to that stuff. He won that tournament. snapping it, catching those fish. He was even on Panoptics, able to tell the difference between drum, and he got off the water and basically held court with all the media guys. And we're like, hey, you guys do what you want, but I'd appreciate if we left some key points out of this victory for the week. So he was on it early. Mike McClellan also won an open on it early too, on Table Rock on the blobs. But tour-wise, Christie, then it seems like everybody minnows, but Christie won a Bassmaster Classic on Hartwell in 2022, I believe, in the guts on a minnow when the entire field wasn't minnowing there. Like that, like it was kind of a thing, but the way that he did that and he won that, he also is very proficient with perspective mode, which is an underrated thing. Now, if he has his chance, I don't think he forward faces. But if you look at the resume, you look at what he's won, you look at how he's won over the time period that he's won, I think Jason Christie deserves a spot on this list. And he's my number 6.
And just to add to that point, Matt, I mean, the win at Pascatank, he might have been the last guy in the field to get urchin style baits.
Yes.
And then goes out there like within days of using them and wins the tournament with forward facing sonar. I mean, you know, he talked about he wasn't necessarily targeting individual fish, but it certainly played into his. There's guys like that just make it look too easy. And we're joined by one of them now, but like I feel like Christie's in that same realm. Like makes it look
great
way
point,
too
Kyle.
easy.
I mean, is anybody urchining with a frog hook if it isn't for Jason Christie?
Sure. Yeah. Certainly way more popular now.
You seems like you have some thoughts on that selection, Jacob Wheeler.
I mean, I'm not going to say it. I listen. I don't. Christie's in my maybe top 25, but Christie's not in my top 10. Christie's not. He's not. He's maybe in my top for sure. My top 10 anglers for sure, but he's not committed to the scope like these other guys are. Like that, you just see it. He's not looking down that often. He's popping a quote. He's not paying attention to his graph like that. He's not close to that. Now, was he on certain things? Yes, but Christie's just an unbelievable angler and just a natural outdoorsman. He is. I mean, you can just look at him, what he's done, and he's just unbelievable. So I think that natural talent sometimes bleeds over into some of that. So that's why I don't have him in my top 10. But that's why
I agree. I'm just saying 2018, tube up north, 2022, minnow on a blueback lake, 2026, koiki out east. That's a longevity forward facing sonar heritage.
If he was really just casting it, popping it around, like he's more like a feel kind of guy. Like, I don't know. I disagree.
That's fair.
That's why. Hey,
that's why it's my list and not yours. But it is your turn. We have now reached the top 5 forward-facing sonar anglers in high-level tournament competition today. This is your top 5 for Jacob Wheeler, who has Ryan Lockney, Paul Marks, Koya Fujita, Dylan Nutt, and Easton Fothergill. Number 5, Jacob Wheeler.
Obviously, the partial pick. I'm going to put Dustin Connell at number 5, just from the standpoint of a lot of things he talked about. He's really good with it. He puts a lot of time into it. When I look at forward-facing anglers and able to understand the technology, obviously the nuances of what I talked about prior to that, Dustin understands all that. Bottom fish, smallmouth, spawning fish, floaters, cover fish, fry garters, all of those things and everywhere in between. He does not have the thing that kills those guys like Dustin is he has the foundation of a just foundational angler of flipping, pitching, running around, fishing current, all those things. But he constantly works at it. And I think that that's where I really look at, like, how many days is somebody putting in the gym? That Dustin puts a lot of his extra time when he gets to in knowing what the best update is with Lowrance, knowing how to tweak it just a little bit to where his bait splashes, anything moves, knowing all of the, hey, popping it down like he just understands certain things that not a lot of anglers do. And so and obviously he was an innovator, and he also, like, the first one when he won REDCREST is a great win, but when he went to Cayuga and absolutely demolished everybody on smallmouth, that was the one that I'm like, all right. He, like, to me, that was like a scenario where he went out there and crushed him. Thing. He's done a lot of different things all over the year, certain ways and surprise or how he's caught them. He's my he's top five, fifth place for me.
Jody White, number 5 for you. Jody White's top 5 starts with.
I have 2 guys who are tied here,
Gotta
and
pick one.
I'm gonna go Fisher Renaya at 5. He doesn't have the crazy long track record, but he seems to be on the cutting edge of a lot of things, and boy, he really likes looking at scope, and he is really good at it.
Kyle Jesse, number 5.
Yeah, I'm going to continue my list of MLF guys. This is kind of where they're sandwiched in. Again, another guy I know that our other 2 guests are going to probably have higher than I do, but I have Drew Gill at 5. So a guy I covered through college. Obviously, I have thoroughly enjoyed. I'm sure all your counterparts have not enjoyed so much, Jacob, but watching what he's done on the Bass Pro Tour, I mean, the numbers are pretty insane. I mean, since 2023, 40 top 10s, 5 wins, 3 consecutive top 10 finishes in AOY, 12 top 10s in Bass Pro Tour in 3 seasons. Pretty hard to beat that. And we obviously know he's very innovative with forward-facing sonar, how efficient he is. I think you hear a lot of MLF guys talk about that, how efficient he is when that scope is turned on. He's definitely in the top 5. Again, probably higher on y'all's list, but he's certainly in my top 5.
All right. My top 5, I've got Dylan Nutt at number 5. This is a ceiling pick for me, but very impressive with what he did at the Classic, and a shout out to Bassmaster too. When you're able to see the screen and when you're able to watch how he's pulling the fish, what he's doing, particularly when the field knows what they need to be doing and you get lapped by a guy who just does it better and figures it out better. The Wolfpack's pulling them off of the bottom, the urchin style bait. Then you go back and you look at the solid year that he had on the MLF side on the pro circuit. I mean, he was vying for the Angler of the Year title. He almost had a win there that his brother won up until that very last one on Champlain, which actually showed how good he is at scope, because you could see that he really wanted to be out there minnowing smallmouth in the inland sea. But huge upside. I've got, and plus, I mean, he's won a Bassmaster Clay. He won the Bassmaster Classic by like a wide margin and called a shot. He basically called a shot, and a lot of the other guys who were good scopers said he is the guy to beat. Granted, it is there in Tennessee where he was from, but he did what he said he was going to do, did it in a wide margin, and has backed it up. It'll be very interesting to see him next year. So my top 5 kicks off with Dylan Nutt. Number 4, Jacob Wheeler.
Number 4 for me, I went back and forth on this one. This is an angler that's really just a talented angler and catches him no matter which way, but puts a lot of time and effort into it. And my number 4 is Trey McKinney. I think he's a great angler. I don't think he's committed to it. He can catch him on both sides. We have sample size with no FFS and FFS tournaments. It doesn't seem to phase him too awful much. I mean, he had one tough one at Santee, but other than that, I think he's a really well-rounded angler, and just I think he works hard at it. And I think the time and the effort that you put in behind the scenes is something that not everybody gets to see, but you hear you hear a little bit more about it on the back side of things, being in the industry. And I think that's why I look at anglers that put a lot of time into it and effort into it with different techniques. And I think that he's done a lot. He does a lot that people don't get to see. And so I have him at 4.
Jody White.
This is where I've got Jacob Wheeler. I think he is extremely, extremely good at this. He's also extremely, extremely good at everything else. But like, he's put the time in. There are a lot of times where, it comes time for a scope period and he burns the house down. He's had some pretty early notable scope success. There was a BPT back on Champlain in like 2021 or something like that, where I think like I've heard people be like, "Oh yeah, he was catching on boulders," and I can look at those photos and be like, "There's no boulders there." So I don't know about that. Yeah, Jacob Wheeler is, I think, a good fit here. Could be higher, honestly.
Kyle Jesse.
Ironically, I also have Jacob Wheeler here at number 4. I think you look at the body of work, it is quite incredible. I will say, just from like a bass standpoint, if we're sitting in the media trailer and we're looking at the tournament results, it's more of a surprise in the last, 5-6 years when Jacob Wheeler doesn't win. And we typically look at the standings and it's like, oh my God, Jacob Wheeler didn't win this tournament. And that says a lot for how successful he's been. I think very innovative in the sense that, like Jody said, early success. I'm not going to say that you're not up to speed. I'm sure you're a tackle junkie and you're buying all the new latest stuff. The thing that's almost most surprising to me is you're doing it with the same stuff that everybody else knows you're throwing, and you're still catching them. Like you hear, I'm sure you're going to hate this comparison, but like in KVD's prime, everybody thought that he just had stuff in the boat that was just vastly different than everybody else. No, he was just outworking everybody else with what he had. And I feel like Jacob Wheeler, in my eyes, is very similar in that respect. And again, if I wasn't a bass guy, I might have him higher, but he's the highest MLF guy I have. So
there you go. All right. My number 4 pick is Trey McKinney. Now, if we do this show in a week after the final Bassmaster Elite Series, and he's got an Angler of the Year under his belt, that might change a little bit. But right now, he doesn't have a classic, doesn't have an Angler of the Year of it. He does have back-to-back like seconds in absolutely everything. He has a lot of wins. He has a ton of Century belts. It would be very easy to put him in the top 2. And if this becomes an annual show, I don't see Trey falling outside of the top 5 or moving down at all in the next 10 years. But right now I've got Trey McKinney at number 4. Number 3, Jacob Wheeler.
So again, my criteria is a little different than yours. And so like I look at definition of career, like without this, would they be where they're at? So when you get to number 3, and so I think it's tough. So I can't put this, I could very easily put this Angler at number 1, but I won't because of the amount of respect that I have to his overall game. And so it's not defined by just one thing. And obviously Jody sort of has a hint of who that might be. And so Banks is an unbelievable angler. And angler got a lot of good foundations here on the Tennessee River. He knows how to catch them out offshore. He understands. But see, this is the thing. When you get into mapping, when you get into side imaging, when you get into other aspects of the game, reading grass, etc., and knowing little nuances, that I don't look as like FFS. That's just like overall angler prowess and understanding of the game. So that's where it's different. So that's why I look at those anglers a little bit differently, and that's why I put Banks. When I'm just looking straight, you got to drop your trolling motor and you got to catch them. If I put you in the same pond as this guy, I put Banks at number 3. That's how I look at it. So if I put you all in the same pond and you were casting the exact same fish, Banks might be higher than that, but I'm just going to put him at number 3 because that's how I look.
Jacob, your top 10: Lockney, Marks, Fujita, Dylan Nutt, Fothergill, Connell, McKinney, Bankshaw. Jody White, your top 3 pick.
Let's see. Who have I picked so far? All right, this is where I have Drew Gill.
Okay.
I don't really think Drew needs like an explanation for being here or for being on the list. I think probably some other people might have him number 1. But I think there are some other guys who like sometimes outfish him. There are some holes in Drew's game. And there are maybe a few less holes in the just sort of the overall picture. And I know it's about live scope, but there are maybe a few less holes in the overall picture for some of these other guys.
Mm-hmm.
I had Drew and Fisher like tied by points, and in my head, I decided to break it because of what Drew did at the Harris chain this year when he lapped the field and he had 3 hours to scope. And I think he didn't catch he may have caught a limit every day. He may not have, but like he literally caught like a 9-pounder like every day or like 2. It was unbelievable. It was one of the worst tournaments ever. And Drew made it look easy to go out and catch big bags in very little time. It was epic. And then we did it again on day 5 too. Like, it's like, oh yeah, could have been a 4-day tournament. Could have been a 6-day tournament. He probably would have kept doing it. It was really, really impressive. And like Drew is really, really awesome at that stuff. But also, bank shot sometimes beats him. And, I guess that's maybe a prelude to one of my next picks.
All right, Kyle, Jesse, your top 5 so far. You have Drew Gill at number 5, Jacob Wheeler at number 4. We are now into your top 3. Who is your third pick?
Yeah, so my number 3, I value more than the other 2. His name's been mentioned a handful of times, but I'm going Kyoya Fujita at 3. And I understand there's some certain, consistency measures you look at that you're like, I don't really know how this happens. I mean, you look at what he did this year at one of them popped off the page to me. Arkansas River was a scope event, and now I'm in the dark again because the Surge Squad has turned off the lights again. They're getting me again. But I think when you look at the Elite Series field, there's nobody that you want to figure out what they're doing more than him. Like, it's become a game amongst all the media people, the anglers, and I think that goes to innovation. Like, I think everybody wants to know what he's doing. He's very, very good at hiding it. I hear a lot of the stories from the camera guys, like the guys that shoot the live show, about how particular he is with hiding everything. And like I said, I don't think anybody would be wanting to know what he was doing if he wasn't one of the best scopers in the game. So I value that probably more than I do the results. Obviously, he's got a couple wins, one at Champlain, obviously fishing for smallmouth, and then Toledo Bend. I covered him on the water in that tournament, fishing around a lot of other guys, kind of to Jacob's point about pressured fish. Like, if you can make an area last for 4 days where other guys are doing very similar things, I mean, to me, that weighs a lot. And like I said, I probably value him more just from having covered him on the water and watching him so much and just trying to figure out exactly what he's doing. To me, I probably, again, value him more than a lot of people do, but I have him at number 3.
All right. My number 3 is Jacob Wheeler. And one of the big reasons of that is I think there are a lot of guys that are on this list because they watched Jacob Wheeler's videos over the past years. You talk about normalizing the minnow with what you've done with Crush City, what you've shown in the tournaments. I don't really have to say much more. Your biggest hurdle in this list is that you would probably be number 1 without it. But this was the only thing that we talked about that I talked about with Jody before this show was you could make it strictly scope and it would be hard to pick against you and put anyone else on this list. I think you would still be right at the top of this list too. And you've done it a number of different ways, whether it's, crazy brush pile fish, floaters, bottom fish, stump fish, coast to coast, top to bottom. And then you add the baits in there and how many of the other guys watch your stuff and learn from it. You have to be a top 3 guy. Like there's no way around it right now. You're like the OG top guy.
Yeah, OG. I am. I'm 36 in September 18th. Gosh, I'm a
20 years man. Or 10 years past the prime. And honestly, when I started putting the list together, I wasn't thinking like top 3 for, watch this. When I was putting this list together, I wasn't thinking top 3 with Wheeler. But then when you start compiling the wins and how he does it and everything, like you can't not put him there. Is that fair points, Jody and Kyle?
I wouldn't put him there, but I agree.
I know.
Okay, so in fairness to Matt's point, though, again, my top 3 are Bass guys because of the ones I watch the most. but I had the exact same experience when I was putting the list together. Jacob Wheeler moved up like 5 spots in a row because I was like, you can't justify him not being over all these other guys because of what he's done. To your point, I think he's done it to himself. He's shown the world how to do it, which
He's
is
a
awesome.
victim
It's
of
great
his
for
own
the
success.
sport. Yeah, it's great for the sport. That's why people love Jacob Wheeler, and his videos are so popular.
Yeah,
and,
that did get uncomfortable. That's why I took him off the screen until we're done talking about that pick. All right, we're done. We're back.
I mean, you throw me off today, please. I'm like, listen, I don't have myself top 10. I don't even have myself. I don't. So thank you.
Okay. Who do you have at number 2, Jacob Wheeler?
Number 2. Okay, this is where I get really specific in this, and we have a small sample to do this, but this angler, in my opinion, it is really, really good at it and understands it. I believe won the points. Had an unbelievable EQ season. Had opens, maybe won the points opens last year. That's Fisher and I. And then obviously, he just catches them, man. Understand nuances. He gets it. He spends a lot of time. Not discounting his fishing game, but when you look at this specifically this year on the no FFS versus forward-facing sonar, the sample size, again, small sample size. So I'm not going to define anything of his career or any of that because of that. But when he has it, he's like almost a guaranteed top 10, and if not a top 5, like in a lot of ways. And so against that crew of guys with it the whole time, I mean, he very easily, like, you know, he had a tough day. He had a bad day 1 at Pass Tank. Otherwise, he blows that tournament out easily. Right. And Christie's not winning that, doing, you know, he just gets little nuances. I think that's what it is little subtle things. But he also has a lot of the foundation, I think, of the Tennessee River as well. He has the foundation of knowing just traditional fishing as well, fishing with Gerald and being around that. But that's why he's my number 2.
Jody White, number 2.
I got Trey McKinney here. I feel like he's awesome at live scope. He catches them pretty much all the time. He seems good at other stuff too. I really haven't got a chance to watch him fish that much. I would like to, but like, you can't really argue with the results. If you do like a finish average for the Elite Series, just based on the scope tournaments this year, Trey's at 11.5, Fisher and I is at 11. Like, they're the top 2, like kind of by a big gap. Caleb Hudson, his average is 20th, and like, he's the next guy on the list. So anyway, I feel pretty good having Trey up here.
Kyle.
I'm going to agree with Jacob. I got Fisher and Naya here. Obviously, smaller sample size. This is, I guess, where I would contradict myself in saying that he has a smaller sample size. But what he's done, Jody stole some of my thunder. I did some of the averages on the forward-facing sonar tournaments. 11th place average. Obviously, your EQ AOI last year at 20 years old. Gerald Swindle said something to Dave Mercer and I when we had him on the livecast show whenever he won the Lake Martin tournament earlier this season. And the way he described it, and I don't know that there's like a clean way to describe what he means, but it's always stuck with me. He said the way he looks at the screen is just different. Like, it's hard to explain, but the way he views it is just different than like the way Swindle views it, the way other guys view it. And I think there's an element too, like we've talked about this a little bit, of guys that you watch and they just make it look so easy that it kind of like makes you mad. Like watching him at Pascatank, just lean back as chill as could be, just popping his urchin bait and catching 5, 6, 7 pounders back to back to back. It was like, it was a shock that he didn't win that tournament, because what you saw he did every day, making his weights go up, it felt like his to lose going into the final day. And he wasn't in the top spot heading into the final day, but a guy when that, you know, when the box is turned on, I mean, he's always going to be a factor, like Jacob said. And that's why I've got him at number 2, despite the smaller sample size.
I've gone back and forth about this, and I don't want to flip-flop based on what some of you guys have said. All 3 of you have said things. I got 2 guys. I'm torn on this pick. But number 2, I got to go Drew Gill at number 2. And I'm doing that based on titles. This is a pure accomplishment pick. And that's why I'm going Drew Gill at number 2. He pretty much checks every single box for forward facing sonar, from the technical aspects to, I don't want to say dependency on it, but like his thing this off season is like learning to chunk and wind. Very technical with it. Every time I have him on the show or listen to one of his interviews, he'll bring up something that has never even crossed my mind as an average scoper, where I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Has a very good understanding of it. So Drew Gill, number 2 for me. And you guys also mentioned the resume of that, but some top level AOYs missing on that resume from someone else that you could compare to with less tournaments under his belt. So that's why he's number 2. All right, here we go. We have reached the number 1 forward facing sonar angler in professional fishing today. Jacob Wheeler, who is your number 1 pick?
It's an easy one, but this is the thing. Okay, I'm going to preface this whole scenario. So look, I love Drew. Drew's my number 1 because Drew, and this is the facts. Drew would not be where he was at without forward fishing sonar. Drew defined a lot of what it is and sort of set the, like, there's so, whether Bankshaw wants to say it, whether anybody wants to say it, Drew was the guy who was going out there and innovating, catching spawners, catching fry garters, doing it. He is over and above the number 1 scoper, and because of his commitment to the game, the scope life chose him. He didn't choose it. You know, he just is locked in on that. Now, does that hurt him? Absolutely. When you look at the BPT every single year, he's always in contention for Angler of the Year. And then once on our format, the way it works collectively he gets beat because he cannot consistently catch them without it. I love Drew being very transparent. I compete against Drew. He's not shown, but when that box is on and he understands what's going on, there is no one better than Drew Gill. But he's committed to it. It's like anything else. It's like when Mark Rose was unbelievable on the offshore game. He's so good at it because that's what he works on. He wants to know every little nuance, every little thing. He just consistently catches them day in and day out. And I haven't looked at the stats. I just personally seeing it with 1 period of scope, what he's been able to do. Now, I'm also going to say this. When Drew won Gunnersville, he had to catch them in those last 2 periods to win. So I'm not going to say he can't, but I'm just going to say his foundation is based solely off of that. And so he's building he knows in order to win Angler of the Year titles, which he does lack, and he has to build up his everyday understanding of offshore bass fishing, chunking and winding. He's got to get that figured out. And I think he will. But right now, that's why I feel like Drew Gill, for what he's done with just understanding scope as well as he does, is unbelievable. It is absolutely crazy. And I don't think anyone else on this list could do what Drew Gill does with that. And that's why he's number 1.
Jody White, who is your number 1 forward-facing sonar angler in professional bass fishing today?
I've got Bankshaw here. I think that, I don't really have any arguments against Drew Gill or really many of these guys in like our top echelon. But Banks, he wins at a crazy rate. He catches big fish off of obvious places at an incredible rate. There's so many times where he will be fishing in a crowd or around other people and just absolutely outfish them. I kind of think he's done it to Drew at Gunnersville, maybe early in that BPT this year. He did it in Florida in the canals at Okeechobee. Like, he on the Tennessee River, like, he pulls up and he doesn't catch a 3-pounder off of a stump or a ledge. He catches a 6-pounder off of a stump or a ledge that like other people probably had. You know, he he just seems like he can catch big, difficult fish like so consistently. So this is where I've got Banks.
We are headed towards an interesting situation, I believe. Kyle Jesse from Bassmaster, your number one forward-facing sonar angler in tournament competition today is.
I looked for a lot of reasons not to put this guy at number one, but for me, it's Trey McKinney. I mean, there would be a lot less pissed off people on the internet if he didn't catch him with live scope. Like, I don't really know a better way to put it, but I mean, what he's done is absolutely incredible. Obviously, we know he lacks the AOY and the Bassmaster Classic win, but I mean, he's finished second consecutively in both of those categories, has a chance to win AOY this year. To Jacob's point, when he talked about him earlier, I think this year has shown a lot of people he's way more of a complete angler than just a forward-facing sonar angler. But you look what he's done the previous 2 years where live scope is allowed, you know, obviously in all the tournaments. It's unbelievable. I mean, we talk about it a lot, much like Jacob Wheeler's numbers. If you look at his angler page, like, it looks made up. Like, if you just take out a couple of bombs that he's had over the course of his career, there's not been anybody, you know, in my mind that has done it better. And obviously you say that Chris Johnston won both of those AOYs, which is why he's on my list. But when you're just looking at forward-facing sonar exclusively, for me, it was very hard to justify not having Trey McKinney at number one.
Well said. This angler that's at my number one is at a clip that has never before 60 tournaments into a career been seen. And that includes, or at any point, that includes Jacob Wheeler, that includes Kevin Van Dam, that includes Rick Clunn. He has 40 top tens out of the 59 MLF events he has fished, with 11 wins. That's across high school, college, BFLs, Toyotas, pro circuit, and BPT. He was pissed off that he finished in the second half of the field like earlier this year for like the first time ever in the history of his career. He has back-to-back Angler of the Years. He's the quickest to reach. What's the stat? Quickest to reach $1 million, Jody?
Yeah.
Quickest to reach $1 million. He has Toyota Angler of the Years. He has 11 tournament wins at every single division that you can, and he's only 59 tournaments in. Bankshaw is my number one. And here's another thing that I've said that I found. I talked to some guys. I have friends with guys that fish the TVAs, and they fish the areas. They're familiar with areas that Banks has won certain tournaments at, but they're impressed with how he fishes those areas, because he fishes productive areas completely different than they fished them for the last 15 or 20 years. And it never crossed their mind to fish him using the forward-facing sonar, the way he's getting on top of things, the way he's finding fish, the way he's seeing them. And to me, that's impressive. What guys who I know a spot, learn something about that spot because of another angler who happens to be 23, 24 years old.
Banks is insane, man. It's like crazy to watch how good he's been.
All right, here's the list. Gentlemen, I appreciate the time. We will start with Jacob Wheeler, and I'm going to go through the list with each person, and based on what you've heard, if you want to make any changes in your list before we then go through the top 10, we're going to go through all four of the lists, and I'll ask each of you if there's anyone that you want to switch, change before. This is the list that you have to face these people with for the rest of the year before we do this next year. So no pressure. Jacob Wheeler starting with 10, Ryan Lockney 9, Paul Marks 8, Koya Fujita 7, Dylan Nutt 6, Easton Fothergill 5, Dustin Connell 4, Trey McKinney 3, Bankshaw 2, Fisher Anaya 1, Drew Gill. Jody White top 10, Dustin Connell at 10, Paul Marks at 9, 8, Patrick Walters, 7, Mitchell Robinson, 6, Brody Campbell, 5, Fisher Anaya, 4, Jacob Wheeler, 3, Drew Gill, 2, Trey McKinney, 1, Bankshaw. Kyle Jesse, 10 Chris Johnson, 9 Dylan Nutt, 8 Easton Fothergill, 7 Patrick Walters, 6 Bank Shaw, 5 Drew Gill, 4 Jacob Wheeler, 3 Koya Fujita, 2 Fisher Anaya, and 1 Trey McKinney. Me, 10 Pake South, 9 Dustin Connell, 8 Easton Fothergill, 7 Koya Fujita, 6 Jason Christie, 5 Dylan Nutt, 4 Trey McKinney, 3 Jacob Wheeler, 2 Drew Gill, Banks, Shaw, 1. Are you happy with your list, Jacob Wheeler? Anything that you would like to swap or change on your top 10?
No, I'm good. That's the list.
Jody White,
That's
I asked you
list.
the same question.
Same thing. I'm fine with it. I would, if I was going to rebuild it with like an emphasis on who I think is going to be on it 2 or 3 years from now, it would look more like, Jacob's list probably, and maybe even some other people. But as is right now, I'm a happy camper.
Kyle Jesse, are you happy?
Yeah, I'm happy with it. Obviously, I knew the Bank Shaw pick would be controversial in some ways, but the fact that Jacob Wheeler has Drew Gill over Bank Shaw makes me feel a little more comfortable with it. So I think I'm happy with my list. And I will preface this again. I've said it a million times. The top 3 guys on my list being Bass guys is just because I get to appreciate it firsthand. It's not to say that
literally why you're on the show, Kyle.
Oh, I know. I'm just making that crystal clear. It's not a disrespect thing. It's just like I just watch it every single tournament. I like every second. I mean, it's just what I get to see more than anything.
Once again, why you're on the show. I am going to I think that I tried to get a little too cute with my list, and in the process did not appreciate the rapid rise of Fisher Anaya, who I have on my list, but tried to put Jason Christie in a box that maybe a little bit of Oklahoma Homer on there. So I am going to completely remove Jason Christie from the list of top 10 scopers, and my number 6 will be Fisher Anaya. That has been bugging me since that number 6 pick. I had him on my list, and like Jody, he was tied around that top 5. And then, like I have my list with the rankings here. And then once I picked Christie, I realized, oh no, I'm one short. And so one tried to get cute on that. So my top 10, Pake South, Connell, Easton, Koya, Fisher and I at 6, Dylan Nutt, Trey McKinney, Jacob Wheeler at 3, Drew Gill at 1, or Drew Gill at 2, and Banks Shaw at number 1. Everyone used a little bit of different criteria. Primarily, the criteria we were using: Elite Series Pro, MLF, BPT, Pro Circuit, Bassmaster Opens, guidelines, innovation, consistency, versatility, efficiency, and resume. Gut feel based on what you've seen on the water, based on what you've seen with your eyeballs. Kyle, you've watched a lot of the bass. You've been in the boat. Jody, you're like buddies with all the best scopers in the world. You've scoped with all of them. You've been in the boat with them. You watch everything for it. I cover it, and Jacob Wheeler is Jacob Wheeler. So I feel very comfortable with this top 10 list. Now, folks, we're an hour and 19 minutes in. Do you think in 5 minutes we can rapid fire the top 10 that we all agree on, or do you think we should just do the top 5? Wheeler, what do you think? Should we try a top 10, or I think we do a top 5?
I think as long as you guys can, top 5 is a good one.
Okay.
I think top 5 is better.
So here's the top 5s. Wheeler had Dustin Connell, Trey McKinney, Bank Shaw, Fisher Anaya, and Drew Gill. Jody had Fisher Anaya, Jacob Wheeler, Drew Gill, Trey McKinney, and Bank Shaw. Kyle had Drew Gill, Jacob Wheeler, Koya Fujita, Fisher Anaya, and Trey McKinney. I had Dylan Nutt, Trey McKinney, Jacob Wheeler, Drew Gill, and Banks Shaw. So at number 5, we did not have anybody that matched at 5. But on that,
Dustin out for your top 5, just because it's a partial pick. Probably I'll kick him out just a smidge, just to sort of for.
He was the only one.
Yeah, so I can cut him out of there, but we can sort of move somebody else in there.
If you look at Fisher Anaya, then you had Fisher Anaya at 2. Jody, you had Fisher Anaya at 5. Kyle, you had Fisher Anaya at 2, and I had Fisher Anaya at 6. We'll just pretend the Jason Christie thing never happened. So that's embarrassing. That's 2. I still think he's deserves to be on the list. That'll be an honorable mention.
He was on my list to start with, Matt, so don't
Okay.
feel too bad.
That's 2, 5, 2, and 6 for Fisher Anaya. Trey McKinney is a 4, 2, 1, 4. Bank Shaw is a 3, 1, 6, 1. And Drew Gill is a 1, 3, 5, 2. So based on that top 5, let's start at number 1, because I think that'll be potentially the easiest, so we don't end up leaving it out as we go back down. We have Drew Gill, Bank Shaw, Trey McKinney, and Banks Shaw. Trey McKinney is in the top 2 of 2 of the 4. Drew Gill is in the top 2 of 2 of the 4.
2.
Fisher Anaya is in the top 2 of 2 of the. This is where I was afraid we were going to get to. So overall, give me your case, Jacob Wheeler, for Drew Gill.
I mean, as I stated, I feel like he's the only man in the sport that's got to $1 million strictly because of his understanding. Not strictly, but he's insanely smart. I love Drew, but like he's just so good at it, right? And I think he was an innovator, and I think that even Bank Shaw, Fisher Anaya, and people behind him followed a lot of what he did, and I think that's why I put Drew Gill, and that was more recent. So now, is he an innovator from the standpoint of like Bates? I think he was on the quickie thing a little bit late. I know he was. Banks was on that a little earlier. There's things that I definitely can say, but from the overall just commitment to that game, I still feel like Drew is number 1. I mean, for him not to know how to find an offshore school of bass on the Tennessee River and be able to do what he's done and understand how they set up, like he is so good with it. It's insanely. It's like it's crazy. So that's why I just feel like I can't put Banks there because Banks is too well-rounded of an angler. And the other thing we have to factor, because we're going to be arguing Banks and Drew. Banks missed 3 cuts in the BPT this year. So that's something that you also have to factor in. Now, I know he won the pro circuit, but when Banks does not know a fishery, it takes him a little bit longer to dissect it. If you have the foundation of college, it takes him a little longer to dissect it and get dialed in on it. Now, he'll use this against me when motivation, but
I don't think he'd ever been to Eufaula before, and he won that.
Eufaula, well,
Oklahoma.
yeah, but there's a lot. Listen, there's a lot of knowledge that's been shown how to catch them. Eufaula, like from Banks is a historian. He did a film there is that when they're to Champlain, there's a lot. I just there's three cuts that have been missed. So I just say that's why I look at it overall.
I'm fine with Drew being number 1. I mean, I didn't put him there, but I think one thing is he's like a pretty good evangelist for it. Like he's a really good teacher. He is excited about it. Like I think that, if there's a scope PR guy out there, like especially of the younger guys, one of them's Drew. That doesn't hurt as an extra argument there.
Here's why I asked this question. If we do it in a golf format, whereas like in your number 1, Drew Gill, he gets 1 point. In Jody, Drew Gill at 3 gets 3 points. If you take the top 5 guys that we did and we add them up, you have Fisher Anaya with 15 points. You had Jacob Wheeler with 11 points, but you didn't pick yourself. So that's like an auto 10. So then that's kind of between us 3 on if we decide to put you in, because without you, that's 11. Trey, Drew, and Banks all tie with 11 points. Between the way that we all did it. That's why I was asking for discussion, because we basically have Trey McKinney, Drew Gill, and Banks, Shaw, all tied for number one based on how we all put them on points, giving Banks Shaw 3 points for Jacob Wheeler, 1 point for Jody, 6 points for Kyle, and 1 point for me. And our top guys we have 2 Banks Shaws, a Drew Gill, and a Trey McKinney. So Trey, Drew, and Banks all tie with 11 for the top 3 after all of this is said and done. Here's what we're going to do.
Fish off.
I have in my possession right here. A Chartreuse Green Gold full cast Koike. It brings the million bites to you. It's a fairly sought after bait. We're going to let the number one angler for forward facing sonar between Trey McKinney, Drew Gill, and Banks Shaw play out in the YouTube comment section of this show. This is August 24th. Between those 3, Trey McKinney, Drew Gill, and Banks Shaw, as a fan of the sport, watching BTL, leave a comment as to which of those 3 you think it is and why you think it is. And on next Monday's show, which I will actually not be here on next Monday's show. So on Thursday's show, the 27th, you have 3 days for this. You have until 8:30 a.m. Central Time, Thursday, August 27th. I'll put everyone in. We'll pick one with a thoughtful response, and I'll have the results for this. And one of you will win this is a free full cast headed to you. Like, we mail it, we send it out to you. All you have to do is like the show and leave a comment on one of those 3 anglers who you think is worthy of number one. But for the top 5, I think we have to have, so Wheeler was not in Jacob's list. Here, we'll bring you right back in to close this out. He was number 4, Jody. I love doing that. Number 4, Jody, on your list. Number 4 on Kyle's list. And number 3 on my list. So I think Wheeler has to be a top 5 pick. So I think we have to put Wheeler at 4. Are you guys all okay with that?
Yeah,
I'm good
and
with
if we wanted to put the kids above him and put him at 5, like, he wouldn't hurt his feelings probably.
Yeah.
And maybe in 3 or 4 years, when he's off just catching saltwater fish all the time, like, maybe the other guys are doing even better.
Let's put Wheeler at 5 right now, and then based on all of ours, then Fisher and Naya then becomes number 4.
And then a 3-way tie.
And then a 3-way tie between Trey McKinney, Drew, and Banks. And we'll let the listeners and viewers fight it out as to where their order is on all those top 3 and why. And then we'll gather it based on that. But are you okay with Wheeler, Fisher, Trey McKinney, Drew Gill, and Banks Shaw with the 3-way tie for first right now as our top 5?
Good by me.
I like it.
All right, let's finish this thing off with honorable mentions. Guys who might be in here but don't fish a tour, guys who it really bugs you that they didn't make your list, guys you need to be on the lookout for. Jacob Wheeler, honorable mentions that didn't make the list. Who you got?
So it was on Jody's Brody Campbell, Hayden Marbett, Patrick Walters, Pake South, and Spencer Sheffield is another one I had that I was like, he's pretty talented with it. Matteo Tirana, that's another one. Is that how you pronounce it?
It's Mateo, but yeah.
Okay,
close.
hit me with some information on that. I'm in the dark on this one.
So Jody will know more on that one, but he won the All-American. He's won the tournament on the Toyota on Kentucky Lake this year. So he was sort of the first, I'm going to say, like, when he won the All-American, he caught him on scope. Fry Garders caught like an 8-pounder on scope. And, like, he's just like, I feel like he knows the game pretty well. Now, he just seems like he knows it pretty well.
He definitely knows it pretty well. He's very committed to it. And like he's very good. It's the thing with Mateo is you can't, like, he did just beat Jake Lawrence at Kentucky Lake, and other people have beat Jake Lawrence at Kentucky Lake, but he is the guy who I think definitely sort of followed in Jake's footsteps as far as that early season stump, smallmouth Kentucky Lake kind of scope bite. So yeah, but Mateo is like, he's in there. If you give him scope, he's catching them, generally speaking. And the All-American win is super cool. Like at Hamilton, like we didn't know that guys were going to catch a big one every day. We thought they might catch a big one in the tournament, and he caught a big one every day, which not everyone else did.
Okay. Anyone else for you, Jody?
I would mention Brody Robinson, 2-time college national champion, won AOI in the Opens this year. I'd also mention his partner, Peyton Soro. There's a really good chance that Peyton is Dylan Nutt 2.0 and wins the Classic next year because he'll be fishing on Hartwell, and he's got, multiple chances to make it through the bracket and the Bass Nation Championship on Hartwell. And then Jake Lawrence. I think Jay Shakurat should get some shine. He has had a really bad year this year, kind of, or at least in scope he has, I feel like. But he is really, really good at it, it seems like.
He's 8th in the Angler of the Year this year, but he has struggled in some of the events that you would think he would be competing for the title for Angler of the Year if the events where you would have traditionally thought he did fantastic in, he caught.
Yeah. Maybe I made a big error in one of my spreadsheets and forgot to list him in my Elite Series scope average.
He's got pretty decent average, but Arkansas River, which was a scope event, which was one, the Fowd Steel, this 59th place in that one. Just barely stuck in. But I mean, Albemarle 12th, 18th, 25th, and 2 other top 20s. Like, he's just one of those quiet guys too.
Yeah. Caleb Hudson's had a really good scope year on the Elite Series. I think he won Okeechobee last fall, right, Kyle?
He did. Sure did.
And then Jack Story just won the All-American. He's actually the youngest to win it now. And Emil taught him how to scope, and Jack he's one of the next big things. He's a guy to watch out for sure. And we talked about all the Nutt brothers, and I didn't put them on the list, but easily could. It's a hard list to make.
It is.
Kyle, any of your honorable mentions?
On my honorable mention list, a lot of the ones Jody just mentioned were certainly on there. Obviously, none of the Surge Squad guys made it for me. When I was making this list, not having Dustin Connell on there felt incredibly wrong. So I'll just put that out there. That was the one that I didn't put on there that felt just terrible. Obviously, some of the college guys, Connor Jacob is a name that I would certainly think maybe be on this list.
EPT guy now.
Yeah. Unbelievable. I covered him through college. He was insanely good in college. Anderson Jones, what he's done by himself fishing the college series, I think is incredible. Certainly a guy that, in a handful of years could be on the list. Taku, we didn't put him on the list. I don't think anybody had him on the list this go around, but certainly, obviously very, very good with forward facing sonar.
Was it 2024 Smith Lake?
Yeah. Yep.
The shielding, the landing and the shielding of a odd Japanese bait with a 20 to 25 millimeter core and spiky tentacles coming out of it.
Very, very sneaky. I think one thing Taku does really well too is when you're talking about scoping different depth ranges, like what we've seen him do at the Sabine River, different places where scope is maybe not the norm and still have success. And then obviously his wins, different bodies of water, spotted bass, smallmouth at St. Lawrence River. Hard not to have him on the list. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch more. Rex Reagan, obviously super, super young guy, won a nation tournament. I think he's going to be on that list here before too long. Cody Abbott, another one of those guys, just did well at the Open. That probably will make that list in the future. But yeah, like I said, I could sit here all day long. I've literally got like 50 names listed. But that's some of the big ones, the younger guys that, maybe casual fan has not paid as much attention to.
Well, I had Jay Shakurat and Taku Itu. I think Taco if he had popped one in the last couple months, I think Taku makes this list just based on the past on it. But
tough year this year.
Yeah, I've got Carter Nutt. I mean, you look at what he did. He made it. He won a tour event. He won a big college event the same weekend that his brother won the Bassmaster Classic. I think I don't know the differences of them personally. Jody, you could probably, and Jacob, speak a little bit better to that, but seems exceptionally proficient with what he's done and extremely consistent. That's on the list. And then college-wise, there's a sophomore in college, Dylan Sorrells, who I think has been, if you look at his track record, extremely consistent. He finished in the top 10 of every single high school event that he fished, puts in a ton of time, work, effort, understands his electronics, top 10s in BFL is young. And I expect in the next 3 to 5 years, Dylan Sorrells to come on really strong out of the college ranks and has a deep fundamental understanding of, he works his butt off at it. So
out of Texas, correct? I believe
correct.
I met him a few years ago at the high school combine. Super bright kid.
Yeah. Very, very talented young angler who, I mean, puts his time in, not just looking, but also puts his time in to understand what he's looking at.
Yeah.
Anything else? Go ahead.
Well, speaking of kids, Cage Bragg has been like crushing in Bassmaster high school stuff. He won the championship this year, fishing solo, I think. And then a couple of years ago he did it. And like, if you look at the 2021 Bassmaster High School Championship, Banks Shaw won it. The Nutt brothers were third, and Ryan Lockney was fourth. So high school fishing is a really good place to look for the next guys that are going to be on this list.
100%.
2 years ago, Jody, one of the things you talked about was Alec Morrison, who was kind of on the rise.
Alex really good.
Yep, still fishing,
really
but talk a little bit, like, does he still have potential to make this list in the coming years?
Alec needs to be a little more consistent on the top level to make the list. I think he definitely could make the list. This year at the Kissimmee chain, he won a Toyota where he set, I think, the record for like Florida weight for us, basically. He had insane bags every day. And he caught all of his fish in 3 hours every day. It was a 100% scope win on a jerkbait. And I would say that, like, if he was going, like, if he had qualified for the championship down there next month, he would have been like kind of a favorite by a wide margin, I would think. Because he has that stuff dialed in. But like all these other guys, like, they're making the top 10 every time. They're competing for AOY every time, not just 2 years ago, but last year and this year. And Alec hasn't quite been there.
Jacob, what is it going to take for a guy who's been in this since before forward facing to jump into the top 10 list? Is there anybody, do you think it's mentally capable for an angler who has been on tour we're talking 30 to 50 years old, to all of the sudden be considered a top 10 forward facing sonar angler in the world? Or are we in a young man's game here? You in the top 5, you're the oldest by quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, you guys just sort of threw me in there just because I don't put
No,
myself up
we
there just because.
didn't. Why do you not put yourself
But
in there?
So because so the reason why I don't put Banks number one at FFS is because I feel I look at him like he's really good at strategy. He's really good like side imaging. He's really good at all those things, and all that collectively makes him how good he is, right? So like that's not the reason behind it is like I don't like I'm good at a lot of those things. I understand the backstory. I have a strategy. I plan things out. I can adjust on the fly. So it's not driven like through that. So that's why I'm like, I feel like there's so many more people that are put more time into it. And I think that it's going to be really difficult for someone, unless they don't have a family, they're not married, to jump inside that top 10. And it's going to have the commitment level. Because what happens is in your career, this is why it's so young. In your career, you start off just trying to learn, right? You just put all this time, you go spend all these pre-practice trips, you go fishing all the time. And right now, these younger anglers are in that moment of they're spending countless hours. They probably put, I would say, probably 3 times the amount of time on the water that you would see maybe like a Dustin or myself in a year's time. So the amount of information that they're processing through utilizing that technology, working with lures, going to lakes like Chickamauga and going to herring fisheries and everything else, they're seeing what's happening right now. Okay, this bait's not working, that bait's working, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so where we have a little bit less of a larger sample size, we're being able to sort of do that when in tournaments, like going to Erie, going here, going there, we have a little bit less of that. I think that so when you look at time on the water, it goes back to the old thing, there's no replacement for time on the water. That's very true. So the more time that you have, which is typically when you're to utilize the technology, that's how you really become the best scoper, because you're putting more time in. You're going to the gym more, you're going in the water more, and utilizing the technology and understanding when it's great and when it's not, and where it's limited. And that's why it consistently stays that level. Now, it doesn't mean that the best fishermen are still that level. I mean, you still have, overall, but that's why strategy comes on the back. So I've never seen anybody like Bank Shaw get strategy that quick. Like, I can see moments where I'm like, dang, like what he did at Dustin at Grand was the perfect scenario. That's why, like, I can't put Banks in this box of just like super scoper, because he played it to perfection. He played it exactly how I would have played it in that moment, and I'm like, that son of a gun. And now I look at Banks differently because of that. I look at him like, all right, I underestimated you might have smidge, but I won't ever do that again. So, like, in those scenarios, look at and you're like, wow. But like, there's guys that put the time in overall. That's why it's going to be really hard for somebody to ultimately come in that's not in their mid-20s and be in this top 10 list long term. Now, if I go out there and I commit my whole career, my whole time to dial it in, can I stay in the top 10? Yes. But is that a motivating factor for me, Jacob Wheeler, to do? No, absolutely not. I don't put myself in the top 20 in the world. That's why I just let you guys put me at 5, and we're going to go with that.
Okay.
That's why your list sucks.
No, that's why I had an angler odd who looks at it from a totally different perspective. What I'll do, why I can't do the top 10, I have the points for what everybody had. This will be listed in the description of the show. If you're watching it following, that'll kind of give us the top 10 based on points on who is in the top 10. But like I said, those top 3, Trey McKinney, Drew, and Bank Shaw, give me your top 3 and why. And in the comment section of the replay of the show, in the YouTube comment section, like the show, leave your comment. And then this Thursday, which would be August 27th at 8:30 a.m., we'll go back through. I'll pick one of those comments, a legit Koike full cast headed to your door. No strings attached, just for participating. You don't have to sign up, subscribe to anything. Just leave a comment on the show between those 3 as to who your number 1 pick is, and then at that time we'll do the popular pick, the populist pick. So, any glaring errors in this list? Anything you would change? Your thoughts on it, Kyle, Jesse, before I let you go.
No, this has been a ton of fun. I will say, as we were talking about honorable mention, nobody mentioned Justin Hamner, so I'm just going to throw that name out there as well. I feel like he's absolutely one of the best that got left off, and I totally missed on that on the honorable mention. But no, I mean, I think a lot of good names were thrown out here. I went back and watched the show that you guys did 2 years ago, and it's so interesting to see where we're at 2 years removed from that, and kind of the same deal with this show. Like you said, if you make it an every year show or every other year show, to see, you know, some of the names we had on the honorable mention that will be on the top 10 next time. It's a fun exercise, and had a lot of fun with all three of you.
Thank you very much, Kyle Jesse. You can catch him this week, the Elite Series, the Angler of the Year, top 3 separated by 1 point. You've got a power fisherman, a guy on his home pond, and a prodigy looking to fulfill his destiny, and basically whoever finishes above the other. I could see it going 1, 2, 3. It'll be awesome. You can watch all that over on bassmaster.com. You can see Kyle there, be on Fox, it'll be on Roku, all those same channels. So the season, Elite Series season, comes to an end, and it looks like they'll pretty much just be full sending it into the lake, not knowing what to expect, because there's only about 3 or 4 psychopaths that probably set it out there today. It does not look fun on Lake Ontario out of Clayton for the foreseeable future. Anything else, Kyle?
No, I'm super anxious to get up there for that tournament. I said earlier this week that I miss being out on the water shooting photos a lot until we go to the St. Lawrence River, because there's really nothing fun about getting out there on Lake Ontario unless you're actually fishing for those smallmouths. So definitely going to be a fun event, as you mentioned, with the AOY, as tight as it is. The Rookie of the Year is so tight. And yeah, I think there's an aspect to that tournament ending the year where there's really nothing fun about getting your brains beat in by 7-8 footers, but you got to dig deep. And those guys, you know, fishing for the Angler of the Year title, like, you're not going to fish in the river and risk it to, you know, Corey and Trey or whoever it may be. So a lot of fun storylines there, and looking forward to it.
I'd also point out over one of your shoulders is Mike Iaconelli when he jumped into the crowd in Philly after that historic win. He is competing in what he is claiming to be his last Bassmaster Elite Series for his annual retirement. It feels like it might be legit this time, so all the best to Ike. And then on your other shoulder, legendary with bass, Bob Cobb, right now over on lurenet.com, his signature series bullfrog pattern painted by Frank Scalish for the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame auction. You can go on LureNet. You can use code capital BTL25 to get 15% off. All the legends doing it over there. There's a Johnny Morris one. There's a Denny Brower one. There's a Bob Cobb one. There's a Jimmy Houston one, all top waters. But wanted to mention that. And then I think, is that Helen Sevier peeking out right next to Bob Cobb, former owner of Bass? Very nice there. Do a little history, little research on Helen Sevier. That's pre ESPN outdoor days. So thank you, Kyle. Have a safe trip up north.
See you guys. Appreciate you for having me on.
All right. See ya. Jacob Wheeler, is there ever a time in a tournament where you had a lot on the line where you just went, yeah, I'm not going out there? Or have you always just sent it?
It's always, I'll normally go. There's always a way. It's actually not. You just got to strategically play the wind correctly. Like but you have to be efficient with your time too. I mean, I've actually got to say, it's like, you got to be strategic with your time. You got to, if you know you can catch a big bag. The thing is, when it's rough up there on those places, they bite. But you better listen. What I love about it, like, they bite when it's windy because they can't see so well. And when you do get in them, like, it's actually one of the coolest storylines in the sport of fishing when you have bass boats going in ocean-like conditions and being able to handle those conditions and go out there. And that to me is what I love about the Great Lakes. It challenges you as an angler. It challenges you mentally, being out there in these giant waves and be able to mentally get out there and go find them. I mean, it's cool.
Wrapping up your year, edged out for the Angler of the Year title, but a big notch in your belt earlier this year with the REDCREST victory, something that I know is emotional, meaning both on and off the water, to get that trophy to kick the year. Would you trade a 5th Angler of the Year for REDCREST in hindsight, or do you want both every year? There is no trading.
No, I actually, so like I've said this too, and it's not like I could show you my list of like goals for the season. My goal was to win Erie, which I did not. So win a regular season event. My goal was to win REDCREST, and then I didn't have Angler of the Year on my goal list. Like it's
Okay.
a certain, it was not. I'm not saying that I was not trying. Trust me, I was giving everything I had. But it wasn't my number one priority, right? And so I think that by no means would I trade. Angler of the Year is a unique battle. Only a handful of anglers can get in that middle of that battle. I've been fortunate to be in it, a lot of times, and so some years it's super close, some years it's not. I've lost Angler of the Year twice by just a handful of points, but it just makes you. It's actually really. It's really, I appreciate losing, and I appreciate the loss of just like knowing like you always are challenged by your competitors to be better every single year. You're trying to challenge yourself mentally. Like my best tournaments typically are after a really bad tournament, making bad decisions. I come back typically better the next tournament. And that's sort of the same thing as like when you lose Angler of the Year, typically you rethink a few things. You look at where you messed up this year, but to be honest, I think I had my second best point total in the BPT and just lost. Just got outfished. So a couple of decisions, of course, you can go back and you can say, hey, man, I would love to have back. But Zach just has been fishing on another level. And I think that's something it's cool to see when someone just hits a stride and goes out there and fishes at that level. You're like, man, you just get a hats off to him.
Jacob, thank you for jumping on almost 2 hours of your time. I know how busy you are. Got a lot of stuff coming up. You've got all sorts of championship events and multi-million-dollar and $500,000 stuff coming up this year. So good luck in all those, and congrats on another solid season.
Bye, guys. Appreciate y'all.
There you go. That's Jacob Wheeler. That leaves us to Jody White. Let's unpack this a little bit, like a little post-game deal. Your thoughts on how that went? Like, can I throw up your list? Or I'll just keep that private.
Yeah,
I'll just keep that private.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
I have a Excel spreadsheet with the top 50 of Jody's based on the 5 criteria and all that. Like when it comes to this game, you've won an open scoping. You've won a lot of money scoping out of your boat. Personally, you've been in the boat. You're friends with these guys. You cover it too. Are you happy with how the list comes out? And do you think the best fair way to do the top 10 instead of humming and hawing, we actually have it 10 through 1. We've assigned a point total to them. I think it's obvious that the number 1 is a 3-way tie, and the rest I'll go back through and put the top 10 with each individual guy's top 10 in the description of the show.
Yeah, I think that would be good. I think the listing, it comes down to just what different guys value, right? And how different guys interpret things. And like I said it earlier, but I think Jacob's list is going to stand the test of time a little bit better than mine will.
Same with me.
And I think you have a list that'll stand it'll look better 2 years from now. Or like my list is probably not going to look as good as it looks now in 2 years, if that makes sense.
But you're also going to talk. You also probably mentioned some guys and have some guys on that list and thought about it that none of us know about that will be on that list. It's kind of a give and take. Are you okay with the top 3 with the discussion being between Trey McKinney, Drew Gill, and Bank Shaw right now? Do you think that is a clear-cut top 3 right now in the sport across all platforms?
I think so. I mean, frankly, me personally, I'm okay with just saying that Banks is clear-cut number 1. Like, I know that he is almost too versatile to be the number 1 scoper, but like, gosh, he is so good, dude. He is just on the daily does things that nobody else does.
Number 1, Wheeler had Banks at number 3, and then Kyle had Banks at number 6. The play for Drew is very interesting too. And I think if Drew had 1 REDCREST or 1 Angler of the Year on the BPT, I think that maybe gives him the edge, but he's also
Dude,
by
even
far
if Drew
the
had
most
a good
vocal.
tournament at Erie.
Yeah,
You know?
but Drew's
Like, he
also
just
the most
cracked him at
vocal and
Erie.
talks about it the most too.
Yeah.
Like he'll come on and talk about it for 2 hours and talk about all that stuff. Like you don't really get the 3 hour 9-syllable word explanations from Banks on this too. So
no, you do not. Yeah, I think that there wasn't our top 3, maybe even our top 4, because I really do think Fisher is really, really good.
yes, I agree.
I think that group is like, it's a hard group to pick one out above the other, to be honest. They're all really top tier.
And it's interesting because when we made this list last, we were basically saying these are the top minnowers. Because you had like some structure scopers. Well, you had structure scopers back then, but what we were talking about, you know, I went back and listened to the show 2 years ago. I mean, even just 2 years ago was still like pelagics and finding where the biggest group of high quality fish are and stuff now. And now, I mean, we had a lot of urchin jerkers that were in the top there and talking about that. It'll be interesting to see next year, 2 years from now, like what comes out after that, because, you know, guys that were good at throwing a minnow now 90%, 95% of the field can do that.
Yeah. One of the things about this list now is it's very heavy on guys who are really, really extremely good at scoping shallow. You know, Drew, Fisher, Banks, Trey, Easton, Dylan, like Ryan, like those are Pake, I would say too, probably.
Yes, 100%
like,
Pake.
Those guys are all probably like top tier, you know, let's say 2 to 8 foot kind of scopers,
which is the hardest to do right now because you didn't have the settings. You'd get up shallow. You can't see out as far. I mean, it was the type of stuff where guys wouldn't even look because it was difficult. And they're the ones that now are sending everybody up shallow. Yep.
And, you know, obviously there have always been a lot of catchable fish shallow. Now they're catchable and seeable. I think a lot of time, one of the things that we're seeing, at least up north here, is like some of the actual open water, like the easy fish, are way harder to catch than they used to be. The shallow scope fish, and I think this is probably the case in a lot of places, are still easier to catch sometimes. And granted, we got new baits and stuff, but I think that, you know, back when we were doing this earlier, Drew was at the forefront of the shallow scope situation, right? Like he was incredible at it. And we probably all put him number 1, as he should have been. And I think that people have caught up.
Yeah, I think out of those 3, you know, you think of like, you know, like a Lake Fork, Patrick Walters was mentioned in it, but to me, there's, you know, three types of scopers. There's like real shallow technical scopers where you're talking about depressions, bottom fish, shell bed fish, current related fish that are hard to find that guys are passing up and not fishing for. The other guys are able to pull off. You still have the open water bait related speed, identifying the quality of the schools that you're on, the pelagic chasers. And then you have like the actual cover / structure scopers, the guys who are pulling fish off of trees, who are pulling fish off of dock posts, junk piles, brush piles like that. Like, I think there's definitely a different skill in all 3 of those. Like, you get into the boat with a guy who's a really good structure scoper. He's like, look at that one on the side of that tree. And you're like, well, I don't see anything like that. And it's just a slight difference that they're pulling. They're able to figure out how to get bait down. You have guys who are able to say, well, these are just small pelagic fish. You have guys who are able to go look at them crawling across the bottom. And all 3 of these guys are good at all 3 of those things. But I think those to me are like the 3 main forward facing sonar categories now that we kind of have.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that, I mean, hopefully we'll have a new category, you know, in 2 years or something like that. Like I would love to learn more, right? You know, I still have caught like a handful of actual fry garters on scope because I just haven't been around it. And it's annoying to me because I'd love to see it. I'd love to do it. Right. And I don't know. It's cool. I love this.
Yeah. That was a good show. Generated discussion. I appreciate all of the good feedback for it. And like I said, we do this sport because we enjoy it, because we like to follow it. There's all sorts of techniques and options and ways to do it. And if you're upset with this show, wait till next month where we might have someone from the NPFL on and we do the top 10 draggers in professional fishing right now.
Mark Davis is going to be key.
I'm just saying we may come back with the top 10 guys who don't even turn the damn thing on and never have and are still catching them. Because what's interesting is, even if you look at the Elite Series, if you look at the BPT, if you look at it, like, there's guys who are winning tournaments without turning it. There's more guys not turning it on at the end of BPT events for the entire day at first, where you thought, oh, they're just proving a point. But I think it'll be interesting when you dive into that and we get one of those anglers on and some experts that are like, no, that's their game plan, and forward facing deviates from that game plan. You're seeing a lot of them finish in the top 10. Same thing over on the Elite Series side too, in scope events, guys who are choosing to not scope and still fishing their strengths. Yeah.
Dude, last year on the Elite Series, full scope all year, right? John Cox was 10th in AOI. Like, there is absolutely still a place for not even worrying about it, because the fish can be caught. Now there's some fish that can't be caught without it, but there are a lot of fish that don't, that live other places, and you can catch them.
Yep. And then after that, we'll do the top 10 middle schoolers in the world. And then we'll do the top 10 junior Bassmasters in the world, because, they're only like 3 or 4 years from being on tour.
I'm going to leave that up to other experts, not me.
I'll tell you what, if you're one of those high school kids, like, there's some that you kind of like do some digging because you hear a name and you're like, oh boy, they're top 5ing 550 boat tournaments.
Yeah.
Like that's impressive as hell.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, these guys have won all 17 of the Tuesday nighters held on Lake Lanier this year.
Yeah.
It's like, better watch out for them.
All right, I'll let you go. I know you got smallmouth to catch and tournaments to cover. What is the Toyota Series? Is it the final Toyota Series of the season on Champlain that kicks off in a day or two there, Jody, that you'll be covering?
Yeah. Toyota Series on Champlain, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Thursday looking a little bit sketchy right now, but Friday, Saturday, definitely going to be a go. Should be some really fun fishing.
There you go. Thank you, Jody White from MLF. You can check him out. Does a podcast here and there. A lot of coverage, primarily pro circuit and Toyota stuff, but definitely has his finger on the pulse of the industry and the anglers.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
All right. See you. Once again, big shout out to all of our guests for jumping on today. Kyle Jesse from Bassmaster, Jacob Wheeler, and Jody White. It comes down to Trey McKinney, Drew Gill, and Bank Shaw, all tied with 11. Leave a comment on who you think is number one and why, or your top 3. This is up until Thursday at 8 a.m. Central Time on the 27th. And if you win, we'll send you a Koike. Until then, this has been another edition of BTL Tomorrow. Brock Bila, very consistent Bassmaster Opens. Now, all the points 0, but he won the Angler of the Year heading into the EQs, and we're going to learn about how he did that tomorrow. We'll talk to everyone later. Thank you. See ya.